Game 3 is tonight in Memphis, Tennessee. We are going to break down Grizzlies Thunder, how to get the role players, how to get the reserve bigs, the starting role players, how to get everybody not named Ja, Dez, and Jaren going is going to be the focus of this episode as we preview Game 3 of Grizzlies Thunder. This is Locked On Grizzlies. Let's lock in.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to this Thursday edition of Locked On Grizzlies. It is I, Joe Mullinax, once more flying solo. DeMichael Cole will be back with you on our Friday edition of the show. If you're an everydayer here at Locked On Grizzlies, you know it's a late night game. That means I'm not going to be on the next episode, but DeMichael will have you covered going into the weekend. And obviously some special weekend editions of the podcast are possible heading into a do or die, potentially Game 4 on Saturday there in Memphis. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts as proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, YouTube, literally anywhere you get a podcast, make sure you are checking out Locked On Grizzlies. And shout out to everybody in particular that is subscribed on YouTube. We are approaching 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's been a goal of DeMichael and I's for some time. So thank you to everyone that is already a subscriber checking us out on YouTube. Let's get over that 5,000 mark heading into the weekend. Also, make sure you're checking out LockedOnDaily.com, subscribing to our free daily newsletter, Memphis Grizzlies Words from Me, NBA at large, details and analysis, fantasy basketball advice, and so much more. Make sure you're checking out LockedOnDaily.com and subscribing to the Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. It is free, and every weekday you will get words from me on the Memphis Grizzlies. A big one tonight in Memphis. I am of the belief that if the Grizzlies do not pick up Game 3, this will be a sweep. I think it'll be ugly on Saturday. There's already negative energy towards the current state of things for the Memphis Grizzlies going into Game 3, both online and at the ticket booth. Tickets as cheap as $8 for Game 3 in Memphis. It is not a hot ticket. I'm of the mind, like others that I've seen interact with this information and saying, oh no, an NBA game is affordable for kids and adults to go to. What a shame. I'm with folks on that. But it's hard to not see the price of tickets for Nuggets Clippers, the price of tickets for Lakers Timberwolves, the price of tickets for just about every other playoff series, and not feel down about, not necessarily capitalism, but not feel down about the excitement level. If it was 1-1, if the series were more competitive to this point, I refuse to believe that the Grizzlies would be staring down pretty low ticket sales for an NBA playoff game. But it has not been competitive. That's the unfortunate reality. How can they make it more competitive, though? I'm tired of complaining. I don't know about you. I'm tired about woe is me, poor, pitiful us. How do we fix this thing? That's why they pay Tuomas Isalo the big bucks, of course. That's why he is the interim head coach. He and his staff surely trying to crack the code that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. And far be it for some balding podcaster on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts to tell Tuomas Isalo how to do his job. He is well equipped to make adjustments. But this is just from the mind's eye of someone who has watched Grizzlies basketball for over a decade, somebody who has been connected to basketball for a large chunk of his life, someone who is a coach, albeit in another sport. How I and how the Grizzlies, in my opinion, should try to get things moving in a different direction. And I think the first thing that Memphis needs to do in terms of getting more out of their bigs, the big that they need to get the most out of that isn't named Jaren Jackson Jr. is Santi Aldama. Zach Edey is going to be a mixed bag. Zach Edey is going to be someone where he's going to have games where he gets 12 or 13 rebounds, gets close to a double-double, if not achieving a double-double. He's going to have those flashes of brilliance connected to duds. And I wouldn't say the Game 2 was quite a dud for Edey, but it was not his best performance since Tuomas Isalo took over. That is very fair to say. Probably too fair to say. Edey is going to be what he's going to be at this stage. He needs an offseason. He needs to develop. Santi Aldama is in a restricted free agency year. Santi Aldama has every incentive in the world to want to play his best basketball right now. And is that currently happening? not so much. 31 minutes off the bench, 10 points, 5 rebounds. 4 of 11 from the field, not the most efficient scoring night for Santi. Santi played starter minutes off the bench. My first change going into game 3 is I would invert Scottie Pippen Jr. and Santi Aldama. They're both still playing 30-plus minutes a game. I would start Santi, and I would give the Thunder a different look. Why? Because when you have the athleticism and length that the Oklahoma City Thunder has, there has to be some sort of counterpunch to that you cultivate in the aggregate. Scottie Pippen Jr. is not magically going to grow 5 inches. Desmond Bane is not all of a sudden going to see his wingspan expand by 6 or 7 inches. You have to find ways to match that length and match that foot quickness with the tools that you have at your disposal. Scottie Pippen Jr. is not the guy to blame. This is not, I think it's Scottie Pippen Jr.'s fault. Again, he should still play 30-plus minutes in this game tonight. But I think that you go with Santi for greater size on the front court. I think you go with Santi because he can still provide 3-point shooting. I think Santi rebounds relatively well from the 3 position. He's not an elite rebounder. I'm not trying to, blow smoke up your tails and make you think he is. But he is notably better as a rebounder when he is out on the wing and in that perimeter space. So I would start Santi, and I would start Santi out on Jalen Williams. And I would see how Williams deals with the length of Santi Aldama. I would have Ja defending Lou Dort, and that means Desmond Bane has to draw the SGA assignment. I think it's a quick tug on this one in terms of if SGA goes off early, you have to abort the mission and bring Scottie Pippen Jr. back in. Because if you are an everydayer of Locked On Grizzlies, if you're someone that has actually watched these playoff games, you know that Scottie Pippen Jr. has defended SGA relatively well. SGA is forcing it a little bit. That's fair to say. But I also think that Pippen Jr. deserves some credit for the frustration that he's bringing out in and around SGA. So if this isn't an adjustment that Isolo makes, I'm okay with it because Pippen is not the problem. It's a different look. It's a different rhythm. It's a different opportunity to start the game. And it's Pippen coming off the bench early on. He would be that first early sub, just like Santi has been that first early sub. They're literally just inverting roles. And I would have Santi get going on the perimeter and then transition him into that 4 or 5 role once he gets into the actual energy of the game. Isolo has committed to that bigger front court before. We saw it in game 2. Edey, Jackson Jr., Aldama playing a decent amount together. I would keep that vibe. I also would probably move on from the Marvin Bagley experience. He played really well in game 1, but the Memphis Grizzlies lost by 51 in game 1. In game 2, not as strong as a showing for him. I think it's a series at this point where you give Jay Huff a chance. Not because I'm a University of Virginia Cavalier basketball fan, but Jay Huff has shown decent rim protection, floor spacing, the capacity to be able to do those 2 things at a decent clip. If you're going to play Bagley for 10 or 11 minutes, which is essentially what Memphis has done, that's what they did in game 2 at least, giving Huff that opportunity to be that shooter, to be that floor spacer, another guy that can knock down a shot and at least create some room to operate. That's not Bagley's game. I would give Huff that opportunity instead of Bagley in game 3. Give your perimeter guys, who we're going to talk more about here in a minute, a little bit more space. So Zach Edey getting 26 or so minutes, up to 30 minutes in the game, totally cool with it. Should Jaren Jackson Jr. keep playing 36 or more minutes? Absolutely. Closer to 40 like Ja did in game 2 would be my preference. But I would start Santi, bring Scotty off the bench, and again, it's not a knock on Scotty. If they don't make that move, I'm not, screaming at the world thinking Isolo's a bad coach. It's just a way that I would change up the look that you're giving the Thunder, trying to get off to a better start. The start to game 2 is what doomed the Grizzlies. The start is what doomed them. Oklahoma City won the second, third, and fourth quarter by a combined 4 points. Memphis played them tough a majority of the game. It was the start of the game that hurt them. Giving them a different look in that frame of time is not the worst thing in the world, at least in my opinion. So I would start Santi. I would give Jay Huff Marvin Bagley's minutes. How are you feeling? Let me know on X. Hit me up in the comments. When we come back, going to talk about Scotty a little bit more and other perimeter players trying to get them into rhythm at home in a very important Game 3. Stick around here on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into a gaming entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. You can play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. And if you already have a console like me, a Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take you and your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Games Pass, Ultimate subscription, and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Go check them out today. So we're starting Santi Aldama instead of Scottie Pippen Jr. That was one of the major changes I talked about earlier in the show. But I want to continue to stress, before you yell at me on X, before you yell at me in the comments on YouTube, Scottie's not the problem. Scottie should still get 31 minutes. He should still get starter minutes. I'm giving a different look here. I'm mixing it up, understanding the first quarter is a problem. And understanding that one of the reasons Tuomas Isalo is the head coach of the Memphis Grizzlies is Zach Edey. Is it possible to play your 5 best players, which you can make an argument right now, are Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Scottie Pippen Jr., Santi Aldama, and Jaren Jackson Jr.? You can make that argument. Zach Edey's going to start. So I would go Santi and bring in Scottie Pippen Jr. pretty quickly. And I would also keep Scottie Pippen Jr. next to Ja Morant as much as possible for a couple of reasons. And this already is happening, but I would really prioritize it. Ja is the offensive engine. If the Grizzlies have any hope of knocking off the Thunder in Game 3, Ja's got to go off for 30-plus points. And if he is expending a ton of energy chasing around SGA or Jalen Williams, it's not going to end well for Memphis. He needs to conserve as much energy on the defensive end as he can. Lou Dort, of the guys that get starter minutes or that start for the Thunder, is the lesser perimeter threat. Dort can knock down a shot. He's not Williams. He's not SGA. So I think that you have Pippen in that spot where he can take on those tougher defensive assignments as much as possible. And that's why he's the first quick sub after 3 or 4 minutes in the first quarter. He comes and he gets Santi, or maybe he gets Edey. He comes and gets Jaren, or he comes and gets Bane. Scotty comes in and picks up some defensive energy. He brings that extra punch, a counter punch if necessary. But I think you keep Scotty next to Ja for that defensive intensity. And because Scotty is so much better as a secondary creator. I think it was the television broadcast of Game 2. They talked about how Scottie Pippen Jr. is a shooting guard in a point guard's body. And I think that is a very fair way of describing his game. He is like Desmond Bane in that way. Bane is just bigger. Scotty has a scorer's mentality. Scotty is able to get to the bucket. Scotty has shot the ball from 3 relatively well this season. 41% three-point shooter this year. 37% on non-corner threes. 52% from the corner. He's not the most efficient scorer at the rim, and he struggles in the mid-range compared to other point guards or combo guards. But you're talking about a 6'1" combo guard. That is a concern. This is a guy who is not making the best decisions with the basketball in his hands. And when he's out there with Desmond Bane, the two of them are together, and those are your primary and secondary facilitators of offense, that's no bueno. That's no good. I do not trust at this stage both of those guys out there together. I would trust Luke Kennard to initiate offense in those spaces. And if Luke Kennard's going to continue to play, he has to shoot more than 1 3 in 18 minutes of play. Luke got 3 rebounds. Luke got 2 assists. Luke got a block against the Thunder. Kennard didn't have an awful game. But if he's not going to launch threes and be part of the spacing solution, Kennard shouldn't play. The same is true of John Conchar. Yes, Conchar is an elite rebounder for the wing position. And yes, his stocks numbers are sound. There's a reason why Conchar is still on the Memphis Grizzlies and why he was given the contract that he was given. He can do the things that Memphis has prioritized in the past well. Stocks, rebounding from the wing position. But the bench only scored 14 points for the Grizzlies in game 2. For the Thunder, it was 33 points. That was a decidedly big advantage for OKC. Those reserves have to give more of a scoring pop when they are in the game. If Conchar is not going to be it, give Vince Williams Jr. another chance. And yes, he has looked bad at times. Not trying to pretend that he hasn't. But DeMichael and I have talked about Vince Williams Jr. often. He's the guy that has the highest ceiling of all the players at this moment that could be contributors in a playoff series. Gigi Jackson has the highest ceiling, period. But Gigi's young. He's not ready for this. He played really poorly earlier on in the year. Vince Williams Jr. has played poorly too, but not as poorly as Gigi. And we have a larger sample size of Vince Williams Jr. doing the things that you would hypothesize you need a player to do to be a 16-game player. Knocking down threes, defending multiple positions on the perimeter, being switchable, being aggressive. I would give Vince Williams Jr. a shot, especially if Conchar gets that first run and he's not giving you that spacing. He's not hitting those shots. His defensive and rebounding impact is negated by the fact that he's not a threat to the Thunder on the offensive end. I would see what Vince Williams Jr. can do. I really would. And I would be very aware of how I am dividing up the minutes for Ja Morant. Because again, as I said earlier in the show, if you don't have Ja Morant playing 40-ish minutes in this game and how those minutes are distributed matters a lot, there should never be a time, except for maybe the start of the second quarter or something like that, where Ja Morant is not on the first 3 minutes and the last 3 minutes at least of every quarter that he plays. Probably expand that, right? So let's say, for example, Ja starts the first, plays 9 minutes in the first quarter, okay? And then Ja sits the last 3 minutes of the first 3 minutes of the second, and then he plays 9 minutes in the second quarter. That gets him to 18 minutes. 18 minutes in the first half. I'm condensing that 2 and 2, and I am putting a greater emphasis on Ja starting the fourth and getting him his 2-minute break in the fourth quarter around the 9-minute mark, from 9 to 7, whenever that timeout hits, to maximize those times, those in-game timeouts, the television timeouts. The distribution of Ja's minutes has to be a priority because Memphis was in the game. It was a single-digit game in the third quarter. They were down by 11 going into the fourth. Ja does not start the fourth quarter, and the lead balloons very quickly. The Memphis Grizzlies have one guy, who has the capacity to blow open games and take over right now. That's Ja Morant. Jaren Jackson Jr. shows flashes of it, but Jaren is also more susceptible to game plan specific disruption. The Thunder collapse on him. Jaren is not passing out of double teams as effectively as he could. That can create the issues for the offense, can rush things. Ja is much more capable of completing those extra passes. So Ja is the one. He is him. Memphis needs him to be him in order to win. If you're worried about his conditioning and you want him to hover around 40 minutes, you don't want him to play the whole game, so be it. But how you spread those minutes out matters. Give him a majority of the rest in the first half. Do not let him be on the bench for the start of any quarter other than maybe the second. And make sure that he is in a position to play a vast majority of the fourth quarter. Because I do believe that Memphis can keep this close. The Thunder are roughly 9-point favorites in this game going into Game 3. And obviously we'll be previewing Game 3 here coming up next year on Locked On Grizzlies a little bit more extensively. Things that Memphis has to do to win. But the Grizzlies, as of this recording, are about 9-point underdogs at home. Beats the heck out of 51. Beats the heck out of 19. Memphis has an opening here to make this a competitive game. But you have to be able to lean on your best players. If you cannot lean on Ja Morant to be that guy, if you cannot have reserves in Luke Kennard taking open threes and John Conchar taking open threes, If those guys aren't able to do that, you might as well cut their minutes and let Aldama and Pippen play 38 to 40 minutes as well. Because at least they'll shoot the basketball. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, again, we will preview Game 3, Memphis OKC tonight in FedExForum, a big one, kind of the last stand just about for these Memphis Grizzlies to make this a series at all, going into a potential sweep situation if they do not win. Stick around here on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Tonight in Memphis, there is an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels absolutely huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the apps actually goes down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. The all-in pricing means there are absolutely no surprises at checkout. What you see is what you pay. And again, you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports like tonight's game, Game 3 against the Thunder. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets in Memphis with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Game 3 in Memphis for the Grizzlies tonight against the Thunder. The Thunder have outscored them pretty consistently, right? I think it's plus 70 the Thunder are through 2 games against Memphis. And we have to remember the Thunder played the Grizzlies several times during the regular season, and those were all double-digit defeats as well. What makes tonight different? Well, there's a greater desperation, I think it's fair to say. Memphis is well aware. Again, I'm not saying anything they don't already know. You go down 3-0 to this Thunder team, you think the Forum is going to be not as capacity as it should be tonight. That Saturday night game is going to not be pretty, and this whole season could collapse in a very unattractive manner. And we'll talk more about this when the time comes, which may be next week, maybe the Monday episode. But when the time comes and the offseason arrives, how this is all transpired, how it looks for Tuomas Isalo, how it looks for Zach Kleiman. If Memphis gets swept and decisively swept, like the Thunder are plus 100 for the series, that should not instill confidence in any aspect of this organization. Now, it's harder to get rid of players than it is to get rid of GMs and head coaches. And I do think, and we'll talk more about this, that I would revamp the supporting cast around Bane and Jackson Jr. and Ja and prioritize the head coaching hire before I would break up those 3 at this stage. But if you don't want to have that conversation, if you want to feel better about the current state of play, you need to see this group play better together. You need to see Zach Edey find his footing next to a guy like a Desmond Bane. There were flashes earlier on this season, even in the when Isalo took over. Zach Edey in the high post, making passes off of cuts to Desmond Bane to the bucket, backdoor cuts, movement off the ball. It was like Steven Adams a couple of years ago. It was beautiful. Haven't seen much of that lately. Get back to some of those looks. Prioritize working through not just Edey, but working through Jaren, getting Jaren in a rhythm, letting him be out on the perimeter and get his work in and make sure there's always a shooter. Desmond Bane, when Jaren gets the ball in isolation, Desmond Bane or Scottie Pippen Jr. should always be there next to him. Because if that guy helps off and he can make that pass, those are easy looks for Bane and Pippen to get into a rhythm. And that is the biggest key. Again, OKC was plus 15 in the first quarter. They were only plus 4 the entire remainder of the game in game 2. It was the first quarter that doomed Memphis. Early rhythm, protecting possessions early, making smart passes. After 2 games against the Thunder, watching film, game planning against these guys, you know that those early actions, the types of passes that would have worked against other teams, are not going to work here. You have to be able to adjust and adapt if you're a player. That's not on Isalo. Isalo is not making that skip pass that is ill-advised. Isalo isn't holding the ball out, waiting for Jalen Williams to come and strip it. Memphis has to be able to clean up those mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And the Thunder are really freaking good. But you have to be able to learn from those mistakes. Too many easy turnovers were given to the Thunder. Make them earn everything. Make them earn everything. The Thunder can. They can beat Memphis playing some of their best basketball of the season because OKC is that good. They are legit. They're one of the best teams in Western Conference history for a reason. But you have to put yourself in a position to be successful. If you're giving up possessions, that's extra scoring for them and lesser chances for you. If you're not rebounding, if you're not cleaning the glass, you're giving a player like SGA and Jalen Williams additional opportunities to score. You're giving scramble opportunities to a Chet Holmgren open on the perimeter who can knock down that three. If you are allowing the uber athletic Thunder to get out in transition because you can't protect the basketball, you are giving a team that doesn't need any help even more assistance in kicking your tail. Protecting those possessions has to be a priority. And protecting the glass, whether it's defensively holding the Thunder to one shot, whether it's on the offensive end, Zach Edey needs more offensive rebounds. I posted it on X during game 2. If Edey is not going to rebound, I think he only had 7 rebounds in game 2 in 26 minutes of play. That's not good enough. Edey doesn't have the layers to his game yet where 7 rebounds in 26 minutes is acceptable. That has to be a higher number. He did have 3 assists. We can keep that energy going. I like seeing that compared to 1 turnover. But of those 7 rebounds, only 3 were offensive. He and Jaren Jackson Jr. had the same amount of offensive rebounds. That needs to double for me for Zach Edey in game 3. That needs to be at least 6 offensive rebounds. Extra possessions, extra chances at the basket, generating those opportunities. And defensively, I'd like to see them be a little bit more aggressive and test the reading ability of the Thunder. A lot of switching, a lot of going under on screens, a lot of ball watching and backdoor cuts leading to easy layups. I'd like to see some pressing. I'd like to see some coming up on pick and rolls and forcing the ball out of SGA's hands. We talked about Lou Dort earlier in the show. Lou Dort's a good role player, a really good role player. Make him beat you. Ja can pick his shot and pick his spot and come across and put pressure on Williams or SGA, whoever's got the ball in their hands. Make them make that pass to that guy. And if Lou Dort beats you, you tip your cap. If Isaiah Hartenstein beats you on numerous floaters over Zach Edey, you tip your cap. You're not getting beat by the big 3 of Holmgren, Williams, and SGA. That, for me, would be the priority. So those are my keys to the game. I want to see rebounding be a focus, both ends of the floor, offensive and defensive, protecting possessions in terms of turnovers, keeping that number down, not letting the Thunder get out and into a rhythm in transition. And I also want to see a little bit more defensive aggression. The Thunder, one of their strengths is they are aggressive, especially their guards. Turn the tables a little bit. Give them a taste of their own medicine. Scottie Pippen Jr. already does that. Let's see some other guys get in on that action too. Thank you so much for being with me on this Thursday edition of Locked On Grizzlies. I appreciate it. This Game 3 preview edition of the show. Tomorrow, DeMichael Cole, Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal, and my co-host will be with you flying solo post Game 3. He'll have all the insights from there in FedExForum. He'll be there live in Memphis, breaking down the game, talking about all the different angles. And obviously, if Memphis finds a way to win, Game 4 looks a little bit more interesting. If Memphis loses, Game 4 is with the entire season on the line. I'm sure DeMichael will talk about that as well going into our Friday edition of the show. Make sure you're liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing anywhere you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Google. Make sure you're making Locked On Grizzlies a part of your NBA and Memphis Grizzlies content consumption each and every time that an episode drops. And friendly reminder, obviously Memphis is in the mix in playoff basketball. Locked On Grizzlies has you covered every step of the way with the Locked On Grizzlies podcast newsletter. You can get expert analysis, insider insights, and all the playoff action delivered straight to your inbox for free. Plus, as a subscriber, you'll be entered into one of these 3 amazing prizes: a $2,500 Best Buy gift card, a $300 Game Time gift card, and a $200 Fanatics gift card. It's easy and free to enter. Simply subscribe between now and April 30th to be entered automatically to win. Don't miss a moment of the championship run, fingers crossed. Join the Locked On Grizzlies newsletter today and experience the playoffs like never before. Subscribe right now today and enter to win by clicking on the link in the description. Go Grizzlies. Hopefully you're going to Game 3. Support this team. It's a big contest there in Memphis. They're going to need all the help they can get. I'm hopeful that FedExForum will be similar to the grindhouse of old, and there will be lots of good energy for the Grizzlies against the Thunder, putting up a good fight, not going gentle into that good night, raging against the dying of the light. Make sure you're there for them. Make sure you're watching, and make sure you're coming back tomorrow to Locked On Grizzlies. I'm Joe Mullinax. Stay locked in. See you.